So I'm continuing to make the most of these really great £2 single bus tickets, and I've come out on this quite mild Sunday morning to Selby. I've come here from York, and I've decided to record this short video documenting a little bit of the Trans Pennine Trail, heading sort of southeast out of Selby along the River Ouse, and we're heading for the village of Hemingbrough, which is famous for having a church with a monumental spire of the 15th century, over 100 feet tall. So we'll keep that spire in mind and we'll look out for it on the horizon. The route is a bit of a sort of North Yorkshire Edgelands, so I'm passing by these warehouses down the River Ouse. So there's pallet line lorries and things like that. A lot of cyclists down here. Not the most well maintained part of the Trans Pennine Trail, but it makes for an interesting walk. North Yorkshire, obviously such a beautiful part of England. And on the other side of the River Ouse as well, these great industrial factories. I'm not sure what they're making or what they're doing over there, but this is Drax country. We're in the Drax area, famous for the great power station. Biomass power station, I believe. Could be wrong. But yeah, an interesting part of North Yorkshire. So I hope you enjoy this walk, and when we get to Hemingbrough, we'll have a quick look at the church. So on the OS map, we have just left Selby over here, just gone past Cherry Orchard Farm, which is completely derelict now. Burnt out warehouse and farm buildings. Lots of warning signs about hazardous material in there. So yeah, we're going to be heading out here now underneath the motorway, and then we're going to cut down here, and Hemingbrough is down here. Now you'll notice here it says Old Ways Lane Track. This was created along the old course of the River Ouse. So you'll notice we're following the Ouse here along the Trans Pennine Trail. But the course of the old Ouse actually came down here, around here, up and around here, and down past Hemingbrough. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to Hemingbrough. It seems to have been a theme for 2023 so far that I've been following the courses of these major rivers through Yorkshire. So I've walked quite a bit of the River Wharfe this month, in February as well. And now I'm walking another section of the Ouse. And I find that in these areas, you get the post-industrial landscape blending really quickly, usually passing under a motorway, into this great flat landscape, well, particularly in the Vale of York where I've been walking, and the same goes for out here as well. So they're really interesting landscapes. I feel like they're on the periphery of civilization, and they really are a melting pot of different periods of history coming together. You sort of got the hangover of the industrial period, and in this case here, a lot more modern industrial building. And then old farmhouses, old sluices, old canals, long out of use, some maybe heritage canals in use. It's an interesting mix of the historic landscape. Not everyone's favourite, certainly not the most picturesque, but I certainly enjoy it anyway. So this bend in the River Ouse coming up here, this cluster of buildings up ahead, is Turnham Hall, and then we're going to be cutting across this bit here, and then we'll be closer to Hemingbrough. But it's a gorgeous day today. Might not look it through the camera, but it's nice and mild, a bit overcast, but very still. Really quite nice down the River Ouse. There is the big spire of St Mary's Church at Hemingbrough. as I get close to Hemingbrough, I'm going to cut back to Studio Rob, who's going to tell you about the course of the old River Ouse and its relationship to Hemingbrough Church. And in the meantime, I'll try and get the key for the church, which 6 years ago was kept at the Londis in Hemingbrough. The post office is a Londis, and they used to have the key, so fingers crossed. I'll see you back at the church. Today we can clearly see that the village of Hemingbrough lies close to the River Ouse, but the church and no doubt the rest of the early settlement stood on an area of higher ground approaching the riverbank, which ran the course of what was from the 19th century at least, marked on the OS maps as Old Ways Lane. In fact, you can see the old course of the River Ouse marked along successive revisions of maps up to the present day. Hemingbrough village later extended along a main street running parallel with the river. The old course was abandoned, possibly in an attempt to reclaim land west of the village, and Hemingbrough subsequently lost the advantages of its riverside site. The river now passes approximately 500 yards from the southern end of the village. It is exciting to think of this landscape prior to the change of course of the river, with the great church positioned immediately east of the river, and with a direct road to Howden and access to the riverway, which no doubt had its advantages in the procurement of building material, in addition to other things, and gave employment in relation to river traffic. There is even a record that in the Middle Ages the manor of Hemingbrough enjoyed a fishery in the Ouse, which brought the Priory of Durham, more on that later, into conflict with the city of York because fish garths obstructed navigation. So unfortunately the Londis no longer keep the key for St Mary's Church at Hemingbrough. However, there is a sign on the door that says that you can collect the key from either of the two church wardens, gives you both their phone numbers and says that they'd be very happy to let you in and show you around at any time. So I'm not going to take them up on that offer today because I know I've got to get back to Selby, and if somebody lets me in that church I'm going to be talking to them for hours and I'm not going to get home. So yeah, what I'll do is show you some clips of the church, probably some images actually from the last time I was in Hemingbrough, which was in 2017. Hopefully the church hasn't changed that much. I doubt it has because, you know, in hundreds and hundreds of years it's lasted this long. It's a beautiful church anyway, so I hope you enjoy some clips of the exterior and also some of my images of the interior. A church was recorded at Hemingbrough in 1086, given with the manor to the Bishop of Durham soon afterwards, and assigned by him to Durham Priory. Hemingbrough's church was not the only one in the area which owes some aspect of its later endowment to links with the Bishopric of Durham. For example, nearby St Peter's Church at Howden, having also been given to Durham Priory around the same time as Hemingbrough, became collegiate in 1267. In 1280, the prebend of Skipwith was established, later endowing the much older parish church in Skipwith, only 6 miles north of Hemingbrough. St Mary's Church at Hemingbrough became collegiate in 1427, though by 1426 the church had already been fairly large. Later alterations to the building fabric necessary to accommodate collegiate use have not been fully determined. However, the spire was built by Prior Washington or Wessington of Durham in office 1416 to 46. In total, the tower and spire together reach approximately 189 feet according to Pevsner and Neve. Despite being restored several times in the 19th century by some of the most illustrious names in church restoration, the main evidence of building activity is circa 1200 to 1300 and later on in the 15th century. The church has some of the finest woodwork in a Yorkshire church. Chief among those are spectacular bench ends in the nave pews. Most are decorated with intricate tracery patterns, but one with the figure of a jester character. There are late medieval screens and stalls, and what is believed to be the oldest recorded misericord in England. A fine but anonymous cadaver effigy in the north transept is perhaps the most striking monument of a mix of different types and ages to be seen here. It likely dates from the 15th century, though Pevsner and Neve extend the pool for dating it to the early 16th century. As Ella Pontefract wrote in The Charm of Yorkshire Churches, "The treasures here are unending. It is a church to linger in and explore, finding at each visit something new or seen from a fresh angle." For anyone who remains remotely interested, I've come back to Selby, back down the way I came on the Trans Pennine Trail.